Welcome to LeaderIQ, where we share the stories of leaders in brand and retail, so you can learn what led them to find success in their careers, while giving you an intimate look at how they made foundational decisions along the way. This show is hosted by Guru Hariharan, who's the founder and CEO of CommerceIQ. Guru spent most of his career working as a leader at companies like Amazon and eBay, before becoming an entrepreneur himself. This podcast is brought to you by CommerceIQ, a company which Guru started in 2019 that has become the e-commerce operating system for brands like Logitech, Johnson & Johnson, Kellogg's, Mars, Duracell, and many more. If you're interested, check out commerceiq.ai to learn more. With that, let's get to the show. Today's guest is the President of CommerceIQ, Kal Raman. At the time of this recording, he was the Chief Digital Officer at Samsung. Kal's story is absolutely breathtaking. Guru dives into some amazing stories of what life was like for Kal while he was growing up. His career is absolutely exceptional, spending time at Sam Walton's Walmart before jumping to some amazing companies, including the height of the daily deals craze as the COO of Groupon, a stint working alongside Jeff Bezos at Amazon, and as Chief Digital Officer at Samsung. Kal shares some amazing stories of all the lessons he learned along the way from Jeff Bezos and other leaders he got to work alongside. Without further ado, here is Kal Raman and your host, Guru Hariharan.
Kal, it's great to have you today, and we have had a chance to know each other. We've known each other for quite a long time, and I've personally been a fan of your career, looking at you from an outside in and as a leader. So really appreciate you making time for us today.
It's my pleasure, Guru. It's good to see you in pandemic. It's always good to see your long-term friends. We don't get to see each other like we used to. So it's my pleasure, and thank you for having me on the show.
Perfect. So Kal, today we will go through the podcast in kind of three sections, if you may. One will talk about your early life. There's a lot of stories which I'm personally very curious about, want to learn more about. Then go through your career. You've had a chance to work with Jeff Bezos himself and a lot of the senior team. And in fact, maybe if I'm not mistaken, even with Sam Walton. So want to dig into some of those. And then finally come to just some personal things that you're looking forward to post-pandemic. So that'll be our roadmap for our next 60 minutes, if you may.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Perfect. So, Kal, curious about your early life growing up in Tamil Nadu in India. Can you talk to us about what that was like, and especially as it shaped you into who you are today? Want to learn about your experiences and what are the values you took away from that?
Yeah, life is kind of always fair and leveler over a period of time. Right. The problem is when we look life just in time, we get different opinions. So that's the difference between fact and truth. Fact is truth just in time. Truth stands the test of time. Right. So, God was, I would say, disproportionately unkind to me when I was young. I think he has been disproportionately super kind to me ever since then. Right. And lost my father when I was 14 years old. And my mother brought 5 kids and my grandmother and less than probably 500 rupees of pension. So we used to study, all of us used to study under street lights, and Tamil Nadu had free meal scheme. That's how we got a good meal, and we could never afford to buy 2 pairs of clothes, never had proper shoes, and it was you could say tough, but what brought us together is that difficulty. Sometimes characters get built only in bad times, like difficult times. Bad habits come to you when you have good times. So character always helps you build good, helps you in the long run, but it comes out of lots of difficulty and heavy lifting. And the biggest advantage of suffering at that time is when you are young, you don't know much. So you don't have choices. You don't have alternatives. There is no what if scenario of like what if this happened, that happened, because you just don't have the exposure, right? So the difficulty looked difficult, but it was never like unbearable or anything. So my mother was a visionary. Like she got educated only till 8th grade. After my father died, she basically said, "I'm going to educate all my kids. It doesn't matter. Whatever it takes, I'm going to do it." So she put all of us through school, and we all did well in our own way. We all did well, and I was very fortunate. So many friends, so many great teachers. So many people helped me. I could, some years I could buy only half the books. Some years I couldn't buy the books. Some years I couldn't even buy notebooks. But there was always a helping hand. I'm a big believer God exists, and God exists in the form of the fellow beings, right? And everybody is God in their own might. And I passed my 12th grade. In India, I think it's still true. You can study for both your medical and engineering at the same time. And I didn't know that I was a state ranker, because at that time there used to be only newspapers, and we couldn't afford to buy a newspaper. So one of my classmates' friend, dad, looked in the newspaper, and he figured out that I was a top ranking student in my district. And then I was 13th rank in the state or something like that. Around like 100,000 people appeared for the exam. So he came to my house, and he basically said, "Hey, you should apply to both engineering and medical." We couldn't afford the application fees for both. Like we had to pick and choose. It kind of teaches you triaging. As you grow up in life, you look at how to triage, and you also focus on controlling the control. These are all buzzwords today in companies, but in life teaches you. If you all you have to do is take a look at your life as a third person, you would learn a lot. You don't need that many people to tell you. Fortunately, he said, "I'll pay for the application fees for both." So, by God's grace, I got selected into both engineering and medical. Engineering, I got selected at Guindy Engineering College, which is in Madras or Chennai, what people call now. I still call Madras. Madras is Madras for me. And medical college was in my district, Tirunelveli, which was only like, from my village, it's only 30 kilometers. So, looking at the situation, we couldn't afford many things, right? And also, if I am staying close to home, expenses could be reduced. And in 5 years, you become a doctor, you can make money. Or 4 years, you become an engineer, you make money. That was the only goal at that time. How do you make money? So all my relatives told my mother that he should go for medical. It'll be in Tirunelveli. The cost would be less, and God, by God's grace, your life would get better in 5 years. So on the way to the medical college, going to actually join, only my mother came with me, because my brothers wanted, but we couldn't afford bus fare for everyone. So we were going in this bus, and halfway through that, my mother was asking me, "Are you sure you want to do this? You are excited?" Because at that time I had no clue what it took to be an engineer or what it took to be a doctor. I was focused just studying, passing, graduating, getting a job, and making money. At that time, I told my mother, I have no problem, because that's the right thing for the family. But if I take this medical profession, there is a good chance my life will begin and end in Tirunelveli district. And if, on the contrary, if I took the engineering degree, I had to go all the way to Madras, where we had relatives, but when you're poor, you don't have relatives in life. That's a beauty, right? When you are success, you work hard for 25 years and you become an overnight success, and you'll get to hear from lots of friends and relatives. So when we were super poor and we had relatives, but there was no relative stepping up to help us. So I told my mother, why don't I just go to Madras and let me see? I'll become an engineer, I'll get a job. In case if I fail, what's the worst thing that would happen? I'll come back to Tirunelveli. So if I really, cut through the thing, if I really become somebody better for that, at least I'll have the experience of, getting the escape velocity to clear the orbit. So my mother quietly, she was so wise. She said, she called me Kalyani, Kal Raman, Kalyani. That's how she addressed me. She told me, Kalyani, remember one thing, whether you go to Madras or you go to Delhi, people still walk on their feet. People still eat food through their mouth. You are handicapped because of poverty, but you should never feel handicapped with the rest of the world just because you are poor. Right now, I'm making a decision. You are going to do engineering. That's how I took engineering.
So that was the goal that was given to you. Wow, that's Cal. My mind is exploding. There's so much to unpack over there. It's crazy. So just for the audience, 500 rupees that you talked about is about $8, and inflation adjusted today is probably $500. And just as a relative sense, an average entry-level engineer today makes about call it about $40,000 per year. That's about it's about $4,000 or $5,000 a month, perhaps, something like that. So that's a pretty tough upbringing. So you talk a lot about two things, which you use this word quite a bit. Maybe we can unpack this a bit more, Cal. You talked about characters getting built in bad times. What was the character that you thought you built during this tough time?
So, first is lack of fear of failure, right? So, when I told my mother, if I go to Madras and let's say we couldn't continue the studies, I have to come back. We have nothing here. We have nothing to lose. So let me try, right? And let me try. What is the worst thing that could happen to you? Losing your dad at the age of 14 and literally not having 3 square meals and studying in the street lights. Other than dying, there's nothing worse that could happen to you. So the lack of fear of failure, it's actually got built in me at that time, which actually helped me a lot after I started working, right? And I was the guy who could visualize irrational things. If you remember in Amazon, with Jeff and Bezos and Diego and I, Wilkie, we were all sitting and we are launching, the marketplace, right? And we wanted to be the lowest price, easiest place to find, and the fastest way to deliver. So at that time, we were making price changes, 500 price changes a week, and we were doing it like with 50 people by category and whatnot. So I remember sitting with Jeff in one of my one-on-ones. I had very few one-on-ones with him. He was such a great guy to work with. People need to give lots of credit for Jeff's operational rigor, right? Wilkie was super good. So was Jeff, and both of them were geniuses. So I asked Jeff, what if we scrape the world wherever we live in, wherever we operate the business? And we get the prices and we automatically compare that to our contribution profit, and we automatically change the price, and we will let the category managers just to have high level output on whether they want to focus on profitability or sales. Jeff is like, wow, that is an atrocious vision, Cal, and I said, Jeff, the only way we can build it is we need to build this whole thing away from the people who are doing the real work. So if you remember, Suresh and, all of us, I basically said, okay, guys, we are going to do it. We are going to do it in 9 months. And it was like atrocious thing, atrocious thinking, but Jeff had this vision, right? He wanted Amazon to be the lowest price, always in stock, fastest to deliver, fastest to discover. And within this atrocious vision, nobody was willing to take that particular job of ensuring it in a completely automated way like we did. You were in the same team. We created retail systems team and we did that, right? And that lack of fear of failure is from my when I was 14 years old.
That's incredible. I think there's a lot of power to that, Cal, what you're saying. And I've literally seen you in that where it's at Amazon, like whether building out the marketplace, building out the retail systems, the speed at which we moved, the speed at which you had the organization move, take big bets in short period of time. That's incredible. In fact, I remember in this organization, we were engineers working 120-hour weeks easily. And in order to make this happen, and everybody was fired up because there was this leader who was taking us down big bets and giving us the big safety net, saying it's okay to fail. And that was a huge motivator for everybody.
Yeah, like I think that is the most important thing. Like if you want to be successful always, rest assured you are not trying anything new. Okay? If you are not going to embrace failures, you will never be truly successful. For you to be super successful, you have to think of something which people should call you crazy. And you should be extremely patient in planning. And you should be extremely impatient in execution. And you should be always willing to embrace failure. No, success will come. Success will come. I always tell people, failure is like Bhagavad Gita, whereas success is like a hangover. Failure teaches you a lot more in life than success will ever teach you.
That's very well said. I think I've heard about the saying, as they say in the US Army, hurry up and wait. You're talking about planning very quickly, but really executing it right after that. That's great. And also, I think one thing which I wanted to dig in more, Kal, you use the word God quite a bit. Can you talk to us about what that means? Is that a source of truth? Is that a source of focus? Unravel that for us on why is that important to you?
So, I'll translate this a little bit. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Man mana bhakti, madbhavo, madhyaji mam namaskuru. What he says is always think of me, be very truthful to me, worship me, do right by me. Okay? You replace God with customers. You got a successful business. You replace God with employees. You are running a great team. You replace God with shareholders. You are making everybody happy. So to me, God is about you need to believe in something which is beyond you. And you have to believe in the people around you to do the things which are beyond them. But you have to do all the preparation, you have to support, embrace all the failure. But focus on controlling the control. Again, I'll go back to Bhagavad Gita, right? It's like karmanya vatika raste mahapaleshu katachana. Like what that means is nothing but focus on inputs, control the controllable, leave the rest to God. Okay, leave the rest to customer experience, leave the rest to shareholder value, leave the rest to the people you are helping, the companies you are helping. It's about you doing the right thing. Based on what you know, and embracing failure also, you need to remember the people with the highest judgment make more mistakes and change their decisions more often. Highest judgment is not like, I can see a blue sky and come up with this idea that you come up with something, you come up with the MVP, and the MVP you should be willing to change. So God to me is nothing but very conscientiously working on the most important inputs to deliver the output you want to deliver. But don't worry about the output. You have to measure it, but don't get focused on the output. So I always tell people, like for example, in Samsung, I said we'll do $1 billion last year. And this year I said we'll do $2 billion. And then I told people, now that's a goal, but never think about the goal after this. Because I completely disagree with the practice people who follow or people even say, keep one eye on your goal. That means you already lost 50% of your visibility. Right? Okay, I got a goal, I'll put it. I will not let the goal become my burden. But I'm going to keep both my eyes on what I'm executing today, right now. And the only thing I need to do in the background is making sure that everything I'm doing is kind of like an MVP product towards getting me to the goal. So when you are doing like that, you are going to hack a lot. You are going to hack, you are going to create tech debt, you are going to move forward, you achieve an interim goal, come back and clean the tech debt, again focus on input, the goal will eventually happen. And the goal, if you can achieve whether you are achieving or not achieving the goal, when you don't get attached to the result, you are God.
That's incredible, Kal. I think that's really well said. I think this entire concept of inputs and outputs is really incredible. I think it got almost like to be a second nature for us who worked at Amazon, and especially working with leaders like yourself and you working with Bezos and all that. Can you unravel that a little bit more for those who haven't worked at Amazon? What is the way of inputs and outputs? We're always thinking about OKRs, key results. As you said, we have to hit 2 billion. We have to make things happen. And here we are. We look at Amazon. They never talk about revenue or GMV in the shareholder reports. They talk about fast track. They talk about prime penetration. So can you unravel that on how those decisions were made and how great companies and great leaders have thought about goals?
See, I was very fortunate. My first job was at Walmart, right, in Bentonville, Arkansas. Amazon, Jeff used to be on my board at drugstore for 5-6 years, and I was a CEO. So I had known Jeff for like 7-8 years before he joined Amazon. But I used to tell Jeff, even when I was in drugstore, when he was on my board, Andy used to be his shadow, right? Andy is another great guy. He was, great friend of mine whom I have utmost respect. He's going to kick ass as the CEO of Amazon. I'm very confident. Jeff used to look at, my quarterly forecast because you're a public company, right? Jeff used to tell me, I am just blown away. Never, ever, ever. Your forecast for 1 quarter ahead, 90 days ahead, is off by more than 1.4%. I said, Jeff, I would like to get 6 sigma accuracy, but the moment a human touches something, I can't go beyond 1 sigma, right? So how do you do that? I learned it at Walmart, and it's not like I had it or anything. Walmart taught me the basics, and then Jeff was a master, right? Jeff, when I say Jeff's were the master. We need to give enormous credit here to my good friend, Mr. Wilkie. Both Jeff, Diego, Wilkie, and me, we were all like kind of helping each other and learning from each other. I would say I learned more from them than they learned from me. But Walmart was very good at it. Right now, we are all in a high-tech business, right? Most of the businesses are high-tech. So you get traffic, you get bounce rates, you get click-through, you get conversion. You know exactly how many times you're out of stock based on demand weighted in stock. And you know whom you lost your sale because there is CPC, there is you literally measure everything. Walmart used to do that even before everything became online. Right? And that's why Walmart is such a freaking, me working 5 years, 6 years was worth me getting 6 MBAs. Walmart at that time, we were doing modular planning. Modular planning is effectively, how do you want to, which product to put, next to each other. You always have by department, you all see it in grocery aisles and whatnot. Within that, which product should be sitting where? Walmart at that time could predict, you need to sell more Crest toothpaste in these 1,200 stores than Colgate. So give more spacing on the model for Crest to Colgate. And then the business there, now you worry about attach rates to GMV, to increase the GMV. Walmart, we used to analyze the point of sale and we used to say, okay, here are the 5 products, which are like people are buying together. So invariably somehow get the modulus in such a way that people, when they turn right, they see one, they turn left, they see another one. Okay, so Walmart looked at all the outputs and focused only on stocking the shelves on inputs. Okay, and it just like it is a virtuous cycle. Like we always talk about a flywheel, it's a flywheel. But when I came to drugstore and Amazon, it basically became, I would say, a little bit easier. Because we kind of knew the traffic, we kind of knew half the traffic is going to come straight, 20% is SEO, 10% is going to come from affiliates, and remaining 10% you're going to get from email, and 10% is what paid marketing is, right? And Mr. Holden was on the other side, great guy, and we had all the big data and everything. So we basically said, okay, let's just get the price right. Let's just focus on these inputs based on what we are seeing in the past, and then apply some what we call as artificial intelligence today. We used to do modeling, and we just focused on all those inputs. And we knew, whenever there is a big problem in conversion or something, it'll automatically show up. Then you go look at what other inputs you are missing. So it's this relentless focus on inputs is what is the foundational thing any business needs to have for to be successful, which is also very true for human beings. Okay, you want to be a successful person, you want to be a healthy person, you have to focus on inputs. You have to exercise. You have to find time to calm yourself. You have to be, if you like meditating, you should meditate. If you have to read, you have to read. You can only focus on those inputs. And then it will come and help you in output, being healthy, being successful, or being intelligent in meetings will come as a thing. So whether we like it or not, we all focus on inputs. We have to. But if we, instead of making it, we have to, why don't we just say we want to? The moment, that's a huge difference between companies and people who are very good versus people who always make it difficult. Instead of saying we have to means it's forced. We want to means it becomes self motivation. And that's pretty much it. There is no magic formula.
That's very well. So I think it's also the emotional attachment that you talked about to the end goal. And if you don't have that, it could be so emotionally revealing, like relieving. In just my own personal experience, very small thing you want to, during pandemic, you're putting weight on, and you want to be healthy, and following a weight loss regime, you can't wake up in the morning and say, look, I want to lose 2 pounds. That's not going to happen. What you can do is eat less and eat healthy and exercise. But the thing is, your mind always goes to your weighing machine and say, did I lose that 2 pounds or not? And if it's not happening, if the emotional attachment is there to that end output, then you start to feel demotivated. But at the same time, if you sort of take a step back away on that, then you're focusing on, okay, did I do the right things every day? And at some point, in a month from now, I'm checking the weighing machine, it actually worked. So just in small ways, I totally agree with you. I think focusing and training our minds to focus on inputs is so powerful.
Absolutely. It comes naturally to people. It comes naturally to some company because of the culture. But it is very much possible for everybody, right? So I always tell people, you fake it till you make it. I tell people I get distracted, I get disturbed by all the short terms. And okay, I said, do me a favor, fake it till you make it. You set a routine, focus on inputs, exercise, meditation, just do it. And yes, you get disappointed, accept, embrace the failure. But when you keep doing it, you will make it. Because it's nature to humans. There is nothing, superhuman about it.
That's incredible. Yeah. So, Kal, we before I go into your early career, which I'm very curious about, but you talked about Walmart and working with Jeff Bezos. Maybe we can take that to the conclusion in terms of, I just want to have a catch-all question there. What were the biggest lessons that you learned, if you look back and say, working with Jeff Bezos and the early team at Amazon, at the S team at Amazon, what were the biggest things that you took away from that? And I have the same question from Walmart perspective as well.
See, I would say Jeff was like he could think beyond a normal human mind. Okay. He said he's in space and he's setting up a 100-year clock. And it's not like Jeff himself will agree that he is not going to be alive to see everything. But he always thought way ahead of everybody. Okay. And then he had this character, the steel in him, okay, to literally take every single criticism people threw at him. Okay. And so somebody who had a bold, big vision, and he was criticized left, right, and center so many times, right? So many times. But Jeff would say, great, I'll listen to the criticism. If there is value in it, I'll learn from it. If there is no value in it, okay, that's your opinion. I can't help. So that thinking big and willing to listen to criticism, he was not ignoring them. He always listened to everything. and he took whatever he could change and whatever mattered to him, and he let it go. And then like 4 people I have to say. Rick Dalzer, right? What a genius. My brother, my mentor. He could technically operationalize anything, right? If you remember, we went from monolithic code based to web service based architecture, right? We did that together. Rick also basically said, it's high time, let's do it, Cal. I know it's not all retail systems. You take it, you do it. And I like, Rick, how can we pull it off? He's like, look at what we are doing with affiliates with web services. We are trying to use web services as a foundation for sending our product information to affiliates. Cal, if we can do that to external people, why can't we do it ourselves? And here's high level how I would think about, and then, Suresh Kumar and me and Rick Beatty, we were like, okay, great, let's go do it in 9 months. And Kurt Kufield, the guy who ran the whole thing, he could literally technically organize anything as good or better than anybody I've ever seen. And Wilkie is a freaking, for an operator, he was probably more software centric than any other guy. I don't think he wrote code, but I used to tell him, I used to make fun of him, I could hack and you can't. But he was so focused on literally using software and automation in places where people would say, why do we have to do it? He'd say, no, I want it, right? And then Diego was a master in assessing the market condition. Okay, till you come to a company like Amazon or Walmart, you don't look at the overall market that much. You focus on your year-over-year growth and whatnot. And even though I ran drugstore, guess what? We did a grand sum of $600 million or $500 million in business. I never had to worry about what happens to the market, right? We were not the bellwether for anything. But Diego could predict what will happen to the book, music, video market. And, based on that, we had to accelerate the entire Kindle development and the whole 9 yard. Kessel and the team did that, right? And so these guys are like, each one of them brought a different look to the same business. I learned from all of them. When it comes to Walmart is always about operational effectiveness. Okay, very simple thing. Walmart had a very simple goal. We want to reduce the cost of living for people. The only way you'll reduce the cost of living for people, you need to keep dropping prices. The only way you can drop price is reduce the cost of goods and cost of operation. Mm-hmm. Then what do? Use technology so that you don't touch any unit of work more than once. And the geniuses, whether it is David Glass, Rob Walton, Sam Walton, Bobby Martin, my mentor Rick Dalzell was there, Kevin Turner, my other friend who ran Microsoft here, and we were all taught on operating everything with data. There was never, nobody would be allowed to have a conjecture. If you have an opinion, when nobody has got a data, then the titles took over. But everywhere else, it is completely data centric. And they were operational geniuses. Walmart did pick to light before anybody did. Voice to pick before anybody did. Regional distribution center to handle both wholesale as well as retail. Walmart did. I happened to do it when I was running international. But Walmart did it. They were late on the e-commerce game, but I'm very confident between Doug and Suresh, they'll catch up, because the e-commerce, like the way we see today, we all think that a pandemic has made it so big and everybody is matured. I really think a huge disruption is on its way up to e-commerce right after this.
As I'm listening to you, Cal, it feels like there are few commonalities between these two great companies as they got built out. I heard you say earlier, very relentless focus on the core, which is the customer. How can we provide the best service or provide the lowest price to the customer, whatever that mission was, the core of being that customer. Second is, you said, the leader's ability to take criticism. Third, you talked about diversity of experiences and strengths of the leadership team. Fourth, you talked about operational excellence and automation. These seem to be very common in how these two companies got built out, and they're really built to last as companies as we look at them.
I completely agree with you. It comes from the founder and the founding teams, right? And the kind of leadership they have right at the beginning. And once you start this kind of culture, the culture takes over itself. See, that's why I keep telling people it doesn't matter who runs Walmart, who runs Amazon, both these companies should be successful. Not because the leaders are not, good enough or anything. These leaders built the culture and the company with a genuine humility that no one is indispensable. The only person who is indispensable is the consumer. Okay, so leaders are dispensable, people are dispensable in the right way. It's not like they are bad to people, but they know that the most indispensable thing for the company to function is customer experience, and they always work backwards from that.
Got it. Got it. Cal, moving to your early part of your career, and you had an incredible growth story. So we're trying to look for perhaps some learnings and hacks, and some suggestions and advice in terms of how we should be shaping our careers. But actually, I read about your first job at Tata, and it was very moving. Can you, if you don't mind, could you tell us a story, and what does it like on day one for you, and how did that and beyond that, how did you develop your career?
Yeah, the good thing is I've been very consistent in taking risks because I had nothing to lose. Even now, I think I have nothing to lose. But so I got a job right after engineering. I got a job both in Madras as well as in Bombay. Madras, by the time I lived there for 4 years, I know the place. And I got a job in Bombay where I knew nobody. So at that time, I didn't ask my mother. I basically decided that I would go to Bombay. And the only reason is I didn't want my life to end in Madras, right? So my brother could afford to give me only like 70 rupees was the train ticket from Dadar Mail or something like the Bombay Mail, Dadar Mail, something. And he gave me another 75 rupees because that's all he could muster, right? We are very poor. So I went to Bombay, got off the train early in the morning, something like that, and I had no place to stay, nothing. So I just kept the trunk. I didn't have a suitcase, trunk there, and slept on the railway platform with all the vendors and beggars. And in the morning I had to get ready because from the other east I knew the way. They gave me directions on how to go to the office. So I had to cross Siddhivinayak Mandir and go to my office in Worli. So I asked this vendor nearby. I was not good in Hindi, not that I'm good at it now. I watch all Hollywood movies and Telugu movies, Kannada movies, all movies. I'm a big movie fan. I didn't know Marathi, I didn't know Hindi that much, a little bit because of college. So I was talking to somebody in Hindi to say, hey, can you please take care of this trunk? And this guy talked back to me in Tamil. He's like, are you from Tamil Nadu? I said, okay, yes. Where are you from? Tirunelveli. This guy happened to be from Tirunelveli. You're so kind. Like, what are you doing here? And you got a trunk and you're sleeping here, and this is not a safe area. The only reason I'm sleeping here is I got a cart of stuff I'm selling. Then I told him I'm an engineer. I got a gold medal or whatever it is, and I got a job. And he was like, "We are sleeping here." I said, "Like, don't worry, I picked my joining date very carefully, like August 18th, because they said they would pay on the 25th of every month. Okay, so I knew I was going to get a check or a cash payment in 7 days. So I told him, all I need is 6 days of sleep. That's all, and I can sleep here. And he's like he couldn't believe. So then I told him, where can I take a shower and clean up? And he showed me, and I took the trunk. I walked into the office, and first day orientation. Tata's is a great company, and all the top guys were there because all these guys have got guys who got selected in campus, right? That means I got a bunch of guys from BITS Pilani, bunch of guys from IIT, RIITs, and PhD, JNTU, and all these great colleges. And so after the orientation, the top guy came, Mr. Ranganekar. I still remember his name. I could never forget him. I met with him after that, thanked him for everything he did for me. So he addressed us, and while we were all standing up to go out, he said, like, you stay back. What's your name? Kal Raman, you stay back. I said, okay, I'll stay back. And then he said, like, we know that you are a ranker from your school, college. But Tata's is a reputed, storied organization. We don't let disrespect seep in. I was like, I didn't know what he was talking about. And he's like, look at yourself. You got a bathroom slippers on. It's like, yeah, yes, sir. I really want to buy a shoe. I even know exactly what Power model shoe. Power is a big brand at that time in India. I want to buy, but I'm waiting for my second paycheck. He's like, what do you mean by you're waiting for your second paycheck? And then he asked about me. Then I told him, and he asked me, where are you staying? I stay in Dadar East railway station, and my trunk is there, and I kept it in the front thing. And he was blown away. He was like very kind. He was very disturbed. He was very moved. He's like, you said you got a job in Chennai, and why did you choose Bombay? I said, like, like Chennai, Madras, I got used to it. Everybody says Bombay is the economical capital of India, and I want to see where I can cut it here. If I don't cut it here, Mr. Ranganekar, I know if I fail, I'll go back to Chennai, I'll get a job anyway. But I really want to do something different. And long story short, he immediately arranged for my stay and gave me money and whatnot. And then 3 months into the job, he called me and he said, you go to Bangalore because the cost of living is going to be cheaper. You can work, and there's a new general manager there. And we'll make it look like an internal transfer. So we'll pay for your train ticket, and you can stay. We'll give you a subsidized place to stay for 1 year. So thereby you can send more money to your mother. And I said, well, that looks like a rock star deal. And because I was not focused on anything other than sending money to my family and learning whatever I was doing. And then, I used to be an electrical engineer. So I was doing all the circuit diagrams and whatnot. And same thing, people are regurgitating the same thing in a consulting company, especially when you are in electrical consulting. That's what happens. And we had a great guy. I think his name was G.K. Basu. He was a U.S. return general manager for Bangalore. He wanted to computerize the whole manpower allocation. And he said, who wants to do it? And we had a computer science CAD team also. Nobody volunteered because then I just raised my hand and I said, like, I'll do it. He's like, do you know programming? I said, nope. And which language you're going to do it? I just saw Kenningham Ritchie on the table. I said, like, I'll do it in C. So if you don't know, how are you going to learn? I'll teach myself, and I'll do it. So he said, okay, you're a trainee, no big deal. You take 3 months. And when I started the project, everybody was against anybody automating. Because what it was, like literally all the senior guys would spend like 4 weeks every quarter deciding who's going to work on which project. And they will do the allocation. Thereby, they had the power, the Indian way of having power, right? The people they like, they put them on easy projects. The people they don't like, they put them on hard projects and whatnot. So long story short, lots of people helped me, and I wrote the code, and there was no product manager, there was no program manager, there was no QA person or anything. I just got all the data, inputted it, and like 3 months later, I kind of checked it against the past allocations, and it came to be perfect. In the sense, it was like 90% right, and it actually showed that we could have saved a lot more manpower if we had just automated it. So one day he just called everybody and said, starting next month, nobody is going to do manual manpower allocation. And I became an instant rock star for some people and an instant enemy for many people. And then he asked me, I'm going to promote you and I'm going to give you some more money. I think I was making 3,600 rupees or something. I'll make it 4,000 rupees or something a month. And you switch from electrical to computers group. Then I said, I want to quit. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? You are from a poor family and you need the money and you want to quit? When I'm telling you, I'm going to promote you. I said, like, no, I told Mr. Basu, think about this, a guy like me who never knew anything about programming, just learned it. And it is saving so much time and money for the company like ours. What if I go full time on that road? And I said, like, he's like, it's a big risk. You may fail. I said, I know. If I fail, I know I can come back as an electrical engineer. You see the constant thread in my life everywhere, right? So, and then he said, like, okay, don't quit. I'll write you a recommendation letter. You go join TCS. TCS was in Chennai. So here we go, staying 1 year. Back to Chennai, TCS taught me coding, everything about computers I learned at TCS.
I see. It's a great story. Like from that, then Cal, like from the person who was who didn't have the means to even get a room to now, then few years fast forward, you're now in the US with the Brazil and the US business at Walmart, and then soon enough you become a CEO of drugstore, and very soon enough you're now the on the S team of Amazon, reporting to Jeff Bezos. How did that unfold in a short period of time?
See, I had to give lots of okay. Let's put God's grace, fluke. As you know, there's uncontrollable variables in my life, right? And okay, and I stuck to it. I literally, even at my own peril, I would be data centric at work. Okay, so that to me is a very, sometimes I would be the guy telling everybody that we screwed up. I'll tell ahead of time, we are going to screw up. I'm looking at the early indicators. We are going to screw up. We are going to miss it. So the second thing is the willingness to literally believe that every problem could be solved. Because this comes from my spiritual faith also, right? God will never put you through a test which you can't pass. Okay, if you believe in God, if you believe in business, if you truly believe in business, you can solve any problem. So it is about being data centric, being relentlessly focusing on solving problems. Was what helped me in Walmart, and without me knowing, my wife Vijay used to tell me, "Hey, your paycheck increased this week. Paycheck increased, 6 times in 3 months or something like that." I got promoted 18 times in 12 months, and I didn't even know that. Because the work I was doing was the work. More people were in the team, but I was still doing the same work. So that kind of focus on data, focus on solving problems which are important for the company. What helped me. And then at some point, after I left Walmart, I joined Blockbuster. For everything I learned what to do, I learned exactly what not to do when I worked in Blockbuster. Okay, which is also very important in life. People say, wise people make correct decisions. Okay, the people really become wise by making mistakes. As long as you are honest and sincere, you can learn from your mistakes. So I decided I will not work in Blockbuster. Then at that time, internet was just coming up in 1998, 698 time frame. I decided I'm going to be a CIO. Okay, I had no clue about startup, but I decided that I'm going to do something in internet, and I'm going to be the CIO. And Rick Dals unfortunately joined Amazon. Jeff offered me a job. I didn't take it at that time. Then Jeff was investing in drugstore. He called me again to talk to Peter Newport, and Peter Newport and Shell Newport were like awesome, and they liked me, and I became a CIO. So from a senior director to CIO straight. That's because I decided that I won't do anything other than that, and I also would work on internet. And Vijay Trooper. But the philosophy is the same. Okay, worst case, if I fail, what will happen? I can go back to be the application development director in Texas somewhere, or better be low big deal.
Yeah, so I think the underlying theme about lack of fear of failure and this focus on inputs, not get emotionally attached with one way or the other, positive or negative, with promotions and things like that, that really truly looks like helped you. By the way, that also reminded me, I was listening to a podcast from Richard Branson, and his motto in life was very similar. He would talk about it as screw it, just do it. And that's his motto. So it was very interesting to hear you also put it in different ways. So now coming to your experience at Samsung, so would love to just learn more about what you're doing at Samsung. What excited you to join the team as Chief Digital Officer there?
See, yeah, I joined Samsung for a very different purpose. Like I'm always, I'm a big believer a human being is either born learning and correcting or born dying. Okay. If you look at all my career, you take Walmart out, I've been in highly aggressive companies like Amazon, or the companies I ran, right? I built and I ran. Our Groupon, which was built by all Amazon guys. So that aggressive culture kind of masks the human soft skills you need to have to be a good leader. Okay. So, like other people loved me to death, other people loved to kill me, right? And that is true. There's lots of things in my life I would do very differently now. But I decided that, like I'm going to test myself. Can I be aggressive, deliver results? Can I make people follow me? 80% of people say, I would love to work with this guy because I love him. I respect him. You get it because of what you do. I love him. The only way to test that is going to a big company. Okay. If I build a big company, then it will be my company again, right? Like I can't go to Amazon, I can't go to Google because they are all equally aggressive. The friction-filled leadership is acceptable, right? It's not like they don't care about it, but it's okay. So I chose. I looked at quite a few companies, and people call me. Samsung called me 2 years, I think, before I took the job, and I learned about Samsung. It's a great company. This company is like change, innovation, speed. Is like the hardcore DNA of this company. Look at this company from South Korea, right? And after the Philippines war, after the Korean War, Philippines and Korea had the same GDP. In 25 years, they are 35 times more GDP than Philippines. Okay, and three companies control the entire GDP of 90% GDP of the country, and this company is the number one.
Oh wow!
Here you are sitting, you are looking at a company, a monster, like a behemoth, which is literally number one or number two in every single category they are in. Everything from semiconductor to construction to networking to phones to TV to home appliances. They are in every business. And the headquarters is in Korea. This is a sales subsidiary. You cannot ask for a more complicated bureaucratic company to be part of. So I came here to see whether I can be successful in that setup. Like, can I become a better human being? Can I listen better? Can I relate to people better? Because you can't have a sales pitch, right? In Amazon, we never had PowerPoint presentations. I never liked PowerPoint presentations. There's one 6-pager became 1-pager, right? By the time I left, no more than 2-pager for OP1 and 1-pager for a regular thing. So we were like so focused, and we were like, there was no time for, we're like-minded people, too many like-minded people. Here, I have to deal with salespeople, marketing people, and people who are dealing with offline stores. So I knew that this would be a challenge, and I walked in knowing that either I'll fail and I get fired, or I'll quit. Okay, 2 years back. Now it's 6 years later. I'm still here. This is the longest I worked in a company, believe it or not. By January of the next year, this would be the longest. This would be on par with Walmart. So I came here because the company DNA is hardcore about innovation, change, and speed. I came here for my personal growth to be, a good human, right? Because the reason it was important for me is, my mother passed away 6 years back. And I had a deep introspection. I said, like, okay, how can a guy like me, Vijay and I support 300,000 kids in India, right? We adopt orphanages after orphanages. We give everything back to the society, which gave us everything. The question I had in my introspection is, how could be a guy who could be so giving and so comfortable with different people in social life is so constrained and so unaccommodating in professional life. So I said, okay, now go change it. And I said, like, I unknowingly, I said, I'll be very compassionate to myself if I fail. At least at deathbed, I won't have a regret. So if I fail, I would say, okay, I'm not fit for those things. Now let me go back to, the hardcore, hard charging startups or mid-sized companies or back to Amazon-like companies. So that's the reason I came to Samsung, and I have enjoyed every moment of it.
How did you do that, Kal? All I know is the Kal who's hard charging, who's data, who's like no bullshit. 30 days is too long. I need it now. Like there was that we moved at a certain speed with you, and now you're talking. Speed may not have changed, but like in general, your types of working. How did that over a period of was it happening over a period of time, or was it something that else led to that quote unquote transformation that you're talking about?
My mother's demise made me think hard. Okay. And my wife, she's a very successful computer scientist, but she has been running a school for charity for the last 10 years. And after my mother's demise, when we were talking, she told me, it is possible. And she said, it is possible only if you want it. And I said, okay, I want it. And it's not easy. Okay, let's put it that way. Again, this is where I'm telling you, make it till you fail. Fake it till you make it. Focus on inputs, right? Control the control. Not that, I'm not perfect. I know that. If I'm perfect, I'll be with God right now. But it's about being, very careful, compassionately critical of yourself. Okay? You need to be self-critical, but when we become too self-critical, we lose the compassion. Then we switch back to the old ways. So I know I'll make mistakes, but my intent is this: I'm going to be compassionate to myself, and I will try my best not to repeat a mistake.
Are there some inputs that you're having when you're doing this? In like how you're, or are you using a meditation mechanism, or what is the mechanism that you're using to?
So I've always, I'm a big believer. I always pray every day. That's always helpful, and I try to exercise 7 days a week. That is very helpful. But the most important thing I would say is, doing certain small things right. For example, when you see a good performing person not performing well consistently for a day or 2 days or a week or 2 weeks, rather than saying, hey, what happened to you? You've been such a good performer, or you slacking up on work. You can you start with, okay, is everything all right with you? The immediate answer you will get is, no, everything is fine. I said, no. Is everything really all right with you? Because I said, like, if everything is all right with you, there is a different class of output you would give. So I'm going to assume that I'm going to give you the benefit of doubt first. I'm going to start with trusting, then challenging. After the trust part is over, I'll do the challenge, right? And small things like, when people present things to me, earlier I used to, remember we were in meetings, start with, okay, how did you arrive at that? Why did you put that number there? So the moment we use words like how did you or why, naturally you are making the other person defensive. So listen out and then say, okay, what are the assumptions you used? Okay, did we ever think about it this way? And if we add these two, will this be the same approach we want to take? By the time you have this conversation in the first conversation would resulted in an answer in 30 seconds, but created heartburn for at least 1 day, because screwed somebody's day for at least 1 day, if not more, definitely. The second approach still arrives at the solution in, let's say, even 30 minutes, but the productivity goes through the roof because there is no heartburn.
I see. So listening first and then putting yourself on the same side of the table as that person. Of course, you're working with people who you trust, and so why wouldn't you do that then? That's interesting. That's really well said. Just moving to a very different dimension, Kal, real quick, touching on that. You talked about movies and your interest in movies. I also see you investing in some of them. Tell us about that quote unquote glamorous side of Cal.
Cal and glamour in a sentence is an oxymoron, but anyway, I'm a big movie addict, right? I watch all movies. Okay, I read lots of books. I watch. No, I don't read fiction. I read philosophy, sports biographies, and whatnot. But I'm a avid cricket fan and avid movie fan, right? And so instead of just like sitting there and thinking and watching, I said, why don't I just start producing? And I found some young talent. Me and Soma sir, who's we are the co-investors. So we got a production house with him.
Soma from Metrona.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is like my elder brother. I look up to him. He's from my college and he's a mentor to me all my life. And I also started a second movie house with another guy because of the contact. We have produced 5-6 movies so far, and I'm focusing on inputs. After I produced 15 movies, I can tell you what I learned.
Okay. You set aside a budget for that bet that you're taking. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. That's great. What's your prediction for e-commerce and retail? You've been at Amazon, you've been at Walmart, now you're the chief digital officer of one of the biggest brands in the history of the world. We would love to know how you're thinking about the future, on how it's going to unravel.
I think the disruption which is going to happen 2022 and beyond is going to be 10 times more than the disruption happened in the last 10 years. Okay.
Every year, I mean, like the disruption every year that's happening.
Yeah. But pandemic is changed the way people live, right? And changed the way people look at life. So if you look at e-commerce right now, of course there's Amazon, of course there's Walmart, of course there's Shopify, of course there are DoorDashes and Airbnb and others. But if you look at all of that, it's about wanting to buy what you want to buy at the best price and get it delivered fast. Okay. And the innovation which needs to happen in supply chain, inventory management, pricing, and logistics, forward and reverse logistics, and the customer acquisition methodologies. Okay, right now the customer acquisition methodologies haven't paced at the same pace as e-commerce innovation. People still have to go to, okay, you sit here and talk again and again, but at the end of the day, you're going to give money to Google or Facebook or Twitter, right? There are only 4 players, and there's only a certain way to get consumers, right? You do a CPC, you do a CAC, and you kind of create a lifetime value, and that whole customer acquisition where these companies which have got big data and people coming and using them and then retargeting them, the way the consumers are going to identify themselves to buy in e-commerce is going to be very different. So, that part will get disrupted big time. I don't know who's working on it from which garage right now. Similarly, inventory management, pricing, forward and reverse logistics, a huge area ripe for innovation. The third area, which is just now started seeing momentum, is the payment innovation, the fintech payment innovation. Buy now, pay later, subscription service, financing for 24 months, and tying to your paycheck, tying to this, tying to that, and tying to tax returns. All these things right now are eminently possible concepts because of the regulations and all this stuff. These regulations are getting lesser and lesser. There is going to be a humongous amount of innovation on that. So when you put all of them together, the face of e-commerce will look very different. Anyone who has got a freaking catalog, okay, it's all nothing but a catalog. How are you going to do inventory management, pricing, markups, markdowns, forward, reverse, returns, payment? How do you acquire customers? The whole area is going to change in 2022 and beyond. I hope like what you're doing, your company will do some of this, because what we are seeing is subpar right now. I see lots of I always tell people we are the tallest midget, right? I see lots of tall midgets, but nobody has cracked the code yet.
And how do you think brands like yourself can disrupt? Of course, Amazon is democratizing anybody who wants to sell, say, phones or TVs, or if I am a supplier, as you said, if I have a catalog, I can go and sell, and I can compete with Samsung. I don't need to pay that shelf fees to Walmart to actually get a store shelf or whatever. Like right now, I can be right next to you. Is there something that you would that you're thinking in terms of how to stay relevant and disrupting?
Yeah, I think this is going to be like an intriguing, continuous, everyday battle, right? And if brands, for example, like Apple has nailed it beautifully, right? But Apple, like Apple doesn't needs carriers. Apple needs Best Buys, but Apple really doesn't need them. Okay, between their 279 stores on Apple.com and whatever they do, they have their own distribution channel, right? And similarly, Samsung, hopefully, Samsung.com would get to that point quickly. We need to do things what retailers cannot do or will not do. Why should you buy something like, for example, why should you shop on Samsung.com when these products are available in 43,000 other outlets in this country? So when you come to Samsung.com, I'm going to do things which retailers cannot do. Thereby, I can avoid channel conflict, and I can also give unique ways for consumer to buy and experience the products we sell, right? So this innovation, if we start to innovate on differentiating ourselves with our sales platforms, we will be gone.
Got it. Yeah, that's a big one. Finally, one final question. Always curious on what are you looking for in the next 12 months? Is there anything that's, as the world hopefully starts to open up here, what's on your bucket list or to-do list that you want to accomplish over the next 12 months?
Okay, to-do list in the next 12 months, I want to spend more time with Vijay. Okay, that's zero, priority zero. Priority one, I want to either become a partner or some kind of an active investor / operational person in either an IPL team in India or part of the US 2020 competition, which is going to start in 2023. Third in bucket list is it's almost 3 years. I always spend 10 days in Himalayas all by myself. I just take 2 pairs of clothes, shoes. I walk Himalayas up, stay with sannyasis, take a dip in Ganges 3 times a day, carry no phone, no money. And
you've been doing that? You've done that? Oh, wow. Yeah. Incredible.
I've not done it for 3 years now.
Okay.
So that's my important third bucket list.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, there's so much to unravel here, Kal. I feel that we could probably go on maybe one more episode. We haven't talked about what you do with the 300,000 kids that you support. We haven't talked about a lot of the early lessons. But this was incredible. Thank you so much for your time and loved your motto of lack of fear of failure. Really appreciate you spending this time with us.
Thank you, Guru. Thank you for inviting me, and I really appreciate. Actually, I love spending time with you. We haven't talked like this for a long time, right?
Yes, That's awesome. Thanks, Kal.
If you enjoyed listening to this episode, it would mean so much to us if you could take a moment to share this show on LinkedIn. To learn more how Guru and his team can help optimize and grow your e-commerce business on Amazon and other retailers, visit commerceiq.ai. Thanks for listening.